Hello, y'all, and welcome to the Tuesday Night Live Show. I'm Bob, your host, and what a fabulous Tuesday this has been, and we hope it's been a great one for you too. The countdown is on, and at this point, we have 62 days until Christmas. That's right. 2 months from today is Christmas Eve. Can you believe it? I cannot believe it's almost here. Here at Tuesday Night Live Productions and the Tuesday Night Live Show, tonight's show will be episode 39 and is a fan favorite because of the nature of the Q&A roundtable discussion. But before we do introductions of my sidekick and our guest panelists, the opening of tonight's show is brought to you by SatBob's Professional Technical Training School for Christmas Entertainers. The legend lives on. This is Tuesday Night Live. Welcome back. The past 2 seasons, our roundtable discussions have been some of our favorite with great content to help us all in our portrayal. The more we share, the better we all become. There's no doubt that this next guy here at TNL Productions is a fan favorite and always shares his red and green M&Ms. Folks, say hello to Spangle in the house.
They're all mine. I'm not sharing. It took me years of watching the show for you to finally supply us with red and green M&Ms.
Well, yeah. Well, we've been on a tight budget. What can I say?
Hey,
All
I'm
right.
excited about today.
Yep. So also in the house, making spirits merry and bright, the one and the only Angela Mack, and we are so blessed to have her running things around here because we all know Spangle and I can't do it. Well, on more of a serious note, you two want to be too cool for school? Check out fancylees.com for all our exclusive TNL swag.
Where'd it go?
I don't know if that was not the right one. We got a video we're going to play right here, real quick, if we can find it.
Oh,
Our producer pushed the wrong button. Find it?
it's supposed to be this one, right? Is that the one I rushed? That's the one you sent me.
Okay, well, it's my fault. We'll come back to that. Let's just go ahead and continue on. Watch us live or recorded on your big screen. Go to YouTube at the Tuesday Night Live Show 1225. Plus, you don't want to miss a single show. You just don't. So go over, subscribe, like, comment, and share. It helps YouTube recognize that more people want to see it. And so they push it out, and it helps us get our content out even further. First half of the Tuesday Night Live Show is brought to you by School of Santa's 2024, hosted by Spangle in the picturesque Ozark Mountains, Branson, Missouri, where fun and education meet.
The first half of tonight's Tuesday Night Live Show is brought to you by SchoolofSantas.com. Kick off your 2024 season with inspiration from the School of Santas, an annual premier educational opportunity where fun and education meet, and is held each year the third weekend in July in scenic Branson, Missouri. School of Santas prides itself in bringing in a variety of new instructors and presenters each year, which makes this school unique in the Christmas community. Offering quality education, training, and fun. This year included in your tuition, for only $459 is 4 days of classes, Thursday through Sunday, and 4 fun nights of entertainment. 2 of these are in-house, along with 2 Branson theater shows, where the class can enjoy time out on the town. Also included is a 4x6 graduation photo with the keynote instructor, and a digital group photo. We kick off both nights with a parade, our annual School of Santa's tribute to Daisy May. All meals provided during class served in-house include a total of 4 dinners and 3 lunches. And breakfast is also included if staying at the host hotel. To close out the weekend, we have the Sunday graduation reception with Elvis entertaining on stage. We also have our expanded StuffForSanta.com mobile store in-house all weekend, along with other select premier vendors. Remember, School of Santa's Branson, Missouri is where fun and education meet. For more information, or to reserve your educational, fun vacation in Branson, contact Tanya Lay at 1-800-432-4202 or email Tanya at bransonticket.com. Hotel rooms are not included in the price. Reservations for your room at the American by Wyndham Branson and Conference Center can be made at the time of registration. Remember to contact Tanya at 1-800-432-4202 before it's too late. Now, back to tonight's show.
All right, Spangle, you know what happens when you get old?
I forgot.
You get confused and forget. Exactly. So real quick, she's going to run the video. It was the correct one. I'm wrong. Sorry, guys. So yeah, I was very confused.
Yeah, you got to admit, I got a big screen there.
You got a big screen. That's almost scary, me being that big and you standing next to me.
Right.
All right, so we're ready for.
The screen's 8 feet tall, 15 feet wide, basically.
Wow, that's a heck of a media room. And of course, for those who have not been to your house or know you are a big Green Bay Packer fan, and it's decked out in Green Bay Packer merch.
Well, some of them don't even know that I own part of the Packers.
Well, no, they don't. They don't.
Yes. Anyways, let's get on with the show and some trivia. The House Without a Christmas Tree originally aired on blank, and was repeated several times in the 70s during the holidays. But it was the rerun for the last time on said network on blank. What was the network and air date? What was the date of the last rerun? And where was it filmed? So there we go, guys. The House Without a Christmas Tree originally aired on blank, and was repeated several times in the 70s during the holidays. But it was the rerun for the last time on said network on blank.
That's right. Aired on said network, the network that we're looking for. And of course, the other two are dates and in the original place that it was filmed at. So fantastic. You guys work on that. And you know what? We've got a lot to cover tonight. So we're going to go ahead.
Let me throw a little hint out here for them.
What's that?
The network is 3 letters. Oh,
Yes,
wait a minute. All the networks are 3 letters.
Yeah, well, you weren't supposed to tell them that. That's going to confuse them now. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into our beginning of the show. We've got a lot to cover tonight, so Spankle, over to you, my brother.
All right, guys, here we go. Let's do this. Time now to introduce our knowledgeable guest panelists, who are all here by invitation because of their experience and brought in to answer a whole host of questions meant to help us all be the best we can be and prepare us for the clause season of 2023. It's upon us now. Please give a warm welcome to Shawn Marshall, White, Kathy Bear, Liz Ruch, Larry Shaw, and Dr. Bruce J.G. Kotowich, and of course, Master of Ceremonies, Rex Ray.
All right, guys. Now, before we get started too far in here, too deep, we just want to wish Mr. Larry Shaw happy 74th birthday. Today is his birthday, so give it up for Larry.
Ho, ho, ho. Happy birthday, Larry.
Hell, we had to wake him up. He's 74 now.
He forgot where he was at. Remember, I told you what happens when you get old, you forget. He forgot where he was at. All right, well, the truth be known, Larry's got a little bit of a buzz in his audio, so he's going to stay muted until we call on him. So he hears us, just to let everyone know he does hear what we're saying. So, all right, welcome, Mrs. Clauses and Santas. We're so honored to have you all here for our third annual round table discussion. Each of you will be called on at one point or another to give your answer to any given question as we go along. Spangle, back to you, brother.
Okay, let's start this off talking about reindeer. What would be your answer to the question? How many reindeer do you have at the North Pole? And how did you name the 10 sleigh reindeer?
Michael, you start off by calling on whoever you want to.
All right, let's go to Liz.
Well, I didn't name the reindeer. Santa named the reindeer, but I get to name all the newborn reindeer. And I have no idea how many reindeer are at the North Pole. I do know that we get reindeer from all over the world, so they're not the only ones in the North Pole.
All right, how about Bruce?
Well, at last count, the reindeer community up at the North Pole is about 4,560. Now, you have to keep in mind that their relatives from Scandinavia, especially Finland, their relatives from northern Canada, northern Russia, the different caribou tribes also come and visit. So, like, around Christmas and also at the reindeer games, there's quite a large population. Sometimes 12, sometimes 15,000 reindeer and caribou visiting us. And in terms of naming, well, when I first started to meet the reindeer, they had such unique qualities. Like, Dasher, just the speed of her was incredible. Donder and Blitzen, when they introduced themselves, it was during a thunder and lightning storm. And just their presence just gave that, it's like, you must be thunder and lightning here. And, Vixen, Vixen has just that little glint in her eye that, oh, she can just melt your heart. So, that the original team, it was so obvious. And of course, without Mrs. Claus, helping to name the reindeer, because Mrs. Claus, she has a unique way of just seeing into people's souls and just seeing into every creature's life that she understands.
Very good. You talk about melting our hearts, so I guess we better go to Shawn White next.
Well, when the children ask me, I tell them that there's many, many barns full of reindeer, and I really do not know the number. That's something that you need to talk to Santa about because he keeps track of that. I do know that the elves play a big part in naming the reindeer, but the final say is always with Santa. He makes sure to let everyone know what the little baby's name is after talking to the elves. But I leave the number up to Santa.
Well, then let's go to Santa Larry Shaw and see what he says.
Well, you got to remember, people don't know a lot about the North Pole at all. So that's why they're even asking these questions. That's why we come up with these stories or tales. And the thing about it is, yes, I give them their herd name or their family name, but each one that gets, as they're born, the mothers and fathers make up their first name. So every herd has like a last name of Dasher or, Dancer or whatever their herd name is. So it's not always the same reindeer that pulls the sleigh. In fact, that's what the reindeer games is all about. They have the reindeer games so they can decide in their own herd which one gets to pull the sleigh that year. And it doesn't confuse me because it's always going to be the 8 names that everybody's familiar with that I'm yelling out to. But it's might be a different reindeer every year. So, and as far as the number, I agree with Bruce. It's right in that vicinity of 3 to 4,000 is where we are right now. I mean, there's more than that, but they're not actually part of our herds that's there.
How about Rex and Kathy?
Well,
What'd you
and
say?
actually, we both have a different answer for this. Okay. My answer has always been I've found in my experience, and all of us have different experiences, children want a real number when they ask how many reindeer do we have. So I always tell them 1,950 is the basic size of my herd of reindeer. And that is the year I was born. It's an easy number for me to remember. I always give the same exact answer. I said, but like every animal in the world, including people, the number constantly fluctuates. So we're never exactly sure how many there are because of births and deaths. And for the naming of them, it's similar to Larry's, but I have in mind the Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donder, Blitzen are the names of the positions in the harness on the sleigh. And we hold the reindeer games each year to pick which reindeer is going to fill which position. And they fill Donder's position. Those were the original 8 reindeer that pulled the sleigh. And, I tell the story about finding Donder in Finland and how his name in English is Thunder. And we ran across Blitzen in Germany, and we found Dasher and Dancer up in northern Russia. And, we go through the whole thing. But for me, it's the positions on the sleigh, and the reindeers have to compete to fill a position. Now, Kathy's is more.
I have a different one. I say that I really don't know an exact count, but the original 8 had the specific names, and then each reindeer has grown their own clan, and they're known by Comet, Cupid, Dasher, Dancer, and the reindeer games within those clans help determine which one in that clan is going to be on the sleigh.
Fantastic answers by everyone. I love all those. Those are great. And that's what this show is all about. So, guys, if you're out there watching tonight and you find something you like, use it. If you don't, just throw it away, pick something else. That's what's so great about it. All right, here's one we hear a lot from children. How did you get here today, and where are your reindeer right now, and can I go see them? Let's start with Shawn this time.
Okay, when I'm working by myself, this is one of my favorite things I've told Mrs. Claus's. The elves help me get to wherever the place that I must be. Sometimes I've been having cocoa on a porch with Mrs. Claus, or the Cracker Barrel just by myself in front of that big hot fireplace. But the elves are the ones that magically help me get there, because Santa's off doing his thing and he might be visiting someone else. So they kind of look at me and go, yeah, okay. Well, what I do is I pull my sleeves up and I have lotion glitter on my arms. And I tell the children that this is part of the magic from the elves. And then I pull my sleeve back up and say, don't tell anybody, because that's how I got here. And I also add that, yes, I might be in a vehicle out in the parking lot, but I have an airplane that they fly me in and out of wherever I'm going to, because I do have a special place in my heart for airplanes. It's probably everybody knows because of my airport dealings. I am on boards and things. So anyways, I put the airplane in there, and then I have a lot of help from my elves making magic to get me wherever I need to be. But the hugest thing, and it shuts the kids right up because they're really happy with seeing that glitter. And then if you pull your sleeve back up, they know it's just a secret between you and Mrs. Claus, because they know how you got there. So there you go.
Love that. Larry, how about you, brother? You muted. Hang on. Unmute. Can't hear you, Larry.
I can't unmute him because he's muted.
All right, so everybody here knows I do the Santa Patrol car magnets. So I started that real early because, like you said, a lot of the kids always wanted to go out and see the sleigh. So I said I gotta fix that. So now I say the sleigh is at the airport or at the North Pole, depending on how I feel that day, where they're at. You know, I may have flew in, I may have flown the reindeer, but I always meet the elves, and they either take me to my appointments or they let me borrow their car, which we all know that most of the time they just let me borrow their car. But I can take them out and show the elves' car that way and say, this is what they let me borrow. And I can show them how messy it is. Don't have to be clean because I said that elves are messy, so I don't even have to keep the car clean. And I said, well, you know, I don't get on them because, you know, they do a lot of work. And I just let them see the car and open the car up, and they got my stuff in it. And, you know, they get to actually see the elf's car. They think it's the elf's car.
That's pretty brave of the elves to let you use their car.
Sure is, Liz. How about you?
So we live in Branson. So we have the Polar Express here. So that's our easy answer. We ride the Polar Express. The Polar Express only goes at midnight. So that's why no one ever sees us, and we can avoid the paparazzi. And then we just say, and then we always have a rental car that the North Pole always has for us sitting at the train station for us to go around town and collect letters and visit children while we're on vacation in Branson. That's why we like to vacation here so much, because the Polar Express comes right here.
Fantastic. Kathy?
Well, my common story is that we have special friends all over the country, and they allow us to bring the sleigh there to their house, and then we borrow their car to get to wherever we're going so that the reindeer are kept safe.
Rex?
Well, I always tell the children right after Christmas, we give most of the year, we give the reindeer off. We let them go out to pasture, wander around, they can go back to their home areas. So I don't have the reindeer most of the year anymore. Now, back in the old days, before there were a lot of people in the world and before airplanes, I used to travel by reindeer all the time. But since airplanes and air travel has gotten real common, most countries don't like Santa flying the sleigh around very often. So, like everybody else nowadays, I usually have to travel by jet or airplane or car. And I have agreements all over the world to be able to get free passage on aircraft, and always have a rent car waiting for me when I get someplace. So the reindeer, they only come back. We gather them all back in at the North Pole for the reindeer games, usually in August, late August, early September. And anybody that follows me on Facebook knows that's about when it starts because of my reindeer countdowns that I do every day and what's going on in the games and all that. And so they really only fly that one night a year. We leave them up there even when we have them in-house to save their strength and be able to get us around the world in one night. They need all their strength and all their stamina. So I travel just like everybody else does most of the time.
Well, Santa Rex, I bet it's pretty hard for you to get through all those metal detectors with all the Santa bales you have.
I have special passes. Santa has privileges.
All right. Well, now I say Bruce to last because he is the doctor of philosophy. I can't wait to hear his answer.
Well, I'm very fortunate being here on the Windsor-Essex Peninsula here in southwestern Ontario. So we have all these wonderful towns and cities through here that have gorgeous parks. So leading up to Christmas, when we're doing home visits and other community events, it's a wonderful time for us to just do time trials, just to see how are we doing with the teams, and is the team cooperating and so forth. So very often what I'll do is that when we're visiting, because also reindeer, like all deer, are very shy. Even though reindeer are the only domesticated form of deer, they're still really shy. So, I know that a lot of children and a lot of our friends would love to see them, but we do need to respect that the reindeer just need a bit of space. So with all these parks, outdoor hockey rinks, all things like that, football fields, soccer fields, they have a wonderful time just playing as friends take me around to visit some of their friends. So it's so it kind of serves two purposes. We're able to kind of get out, stretch our legs, just check on time trials, and I also get to visit, and the reindeer get to do one of their favorite things in their downtime, which is play ice hockey.
Great answers
Yeah,
again.
it would take a Canadian to start talking about ice hockey.
The season started.
Yeah. Another popular question by the children is, tell me about the reindeer games. Are the reindeer games real? And what are they? And if so, how do they work? Do they win prizes? Let's go with Shawn. Sorry.
I actually had some children asking me about that last year in Ohio. And what we did is I just started talking about reindeer games are real, and it's a team building effort for them all to start working better together. And it's kind of like field day. When you have field day at school, that's what the reindeer do so that they can understand. And then I start talking, somebody will bring up Rudolph, and then we go on a whole thing about Rudolph usually out of the reindeer games. But it's team building, which it is. So that's how I talk about it to them.
All right, let's go over to our bachelor number one, Santa Larry Shaw.
Okay, we kind of discussed it before. That's kind of how they decide who's going to be pulling the sleigh that year. That's the big prize. But, after they pick their own position, of course, then each herd or team, then they compete against each other as well. So you have the smaller strength and quickness and all that, but then they always like to compete with each other afterwards. So there is, just the traveling prize is what it is. It's a trophy that travels. They don't get new, so it travels from one year to the year next, and so they want to keep it the longest they can. Each different herd wants to win the traveling trophy.
Okay, how about Liz?
Well, there was one time that Tracy threw me under the bus with this question. He asked the question in the middle of us doing our little thing out of the blue. I don't even know where the question came from. So I came up with something off the top of my head, and it's Reindeer Olympics, and they compete in all the different categories to stay and fit, to be in shape, and to learn different skills from each other. And they do end up getting to win a trophy, and basically as they get to pick what cookie they get to have for the whole season. That was what came up last minute, and that's what I've been using.
Good job.
Hey, sometimes it works. Stay with it, All right, how about Kathy and Rex?
Well, I always tell the kids, I give them a little bit of a story with this, in that when I first came to the North Pole and the elves all came to the North Pole and we started making toys, we needed a way to deliver the toys. And so we went through several different animals. We tried elephants and giraffes and rhinoceroses and lions and tigers, pulling a sleigh to get us around the world. And the way we tested all these and tried out who was best is I had this idea coming from the real world to the North Pole, as I did originally, about the Roman Olympics. And I said, we need to have games like the Olympic Games. And that's where the reindeer games started. They're very real. We have some individual sport games where it's, how strong are you? How fast are you? How fast can you move? We have some team sport games we do to see how they work together. But that's how we first came up with the reindeer to pull the sleigh over all the other animals in the world. And we continued it to determine who fills those spots in the sleigh each year.
That was good. So mine is just they have some team and some individual events. They have takeoffs and landings, how smooth they are, how much weight can they carry on their own, how much weight can they carry together. So they kind of work together to form that team unit so they can pull the sleigh well. And they are, so
Rex started his part off right there. Said, "Well, I have a story about this." Well, if anybody's ever talked to Rex, that's how he starts everything off.
everything.
You say something to him, and he'll, "Well, I have a story about that." How about Dr. Bruce?
Well, just expanding upon what's already been said, I think it's really important for us, Santas, Santa Clauses, elves, all the Christmas performers. Part of our storytelling is talking about our North Pole, because people are so interested in how do we live, what's it like. It's such a foreign thought to everyone, but yeah, it's all about team building, and I feel really fortunate that I'm able to relate the reindeer games to all the different summer camps, because the reindeer games take place during the summer, because at the North Pole is when we have our 24 hours of sunlight, because right now it's basically dark 24 hours, and in fact on December 21st it will be the longest night of the year. So in the summer is when we do our reindeer games, and it's so important, as all of you mentioned, about team building. So, all the children that I visit with, talking about, just like you go off to soccer camp, baseball camp, robotics camp, band camp, choir camp over the summer, hockey camps. The reindeer games are just that. And then the big celebration at the end of that team building is there's that incredible friendly Olympic style competition where they get to show off their things. It's almost like our version of the Calgary Stampede, where they show off their incredible skills. And of course, that trophy, that magnificent shield, is always hung in the Great Hall, right by the pole of the North Pole, so that everyone in North Pole City gets to share and celebrate with all the reindeer.
I wonder if your stampede is anything like Branson Stampede, the Dolly Stampede.
Well, our stampede at the North Pole isn't quite as much gold mylar and sequins, but we're getting
Stampede.
And for me, I use a little bit of everything that everybody mentioned in a way, but I take it to another level. If I have time at the mall, talking about the 100-yard dash, who won the 100-yard dash? Of course, that's going to be Dasher. And who won the high jump? Well, that's going to be Comet. And who won the weighted sleigh pulling contest? Well, of course, Thunder and Lightning, of course, Donner and Blitzen have the largest back hindquarters, so they usually always, come in with close competition between them two. But you can take each individual reindeer, break that down, and add a little bit more to it if you have time. So
let
okay,
me throw because I've heard it said both ways here. Let's throw out something real quick here, and let's do a show of hands here. Okay, who will do one hand if you use Donner, two hands if you use Donder? Which do you all use? One hand for Donner, two hands for Donder. Isn't that crazy? It's like pretty much halfway across the board. Sorry, Bob.
No. Great point, Spangle. We've all heard this one, and I hear it over and over and over, and I know you guys do too. Can I ride in your sleigh, and can I go to the North Pole? Let's start with Larry on this one. He's the sleigh patrol. Unmute, Larry.
Okay, there I got it. I've been in trouble for letting them come to the North Pole before. I like to make them think that they can, but then sometimes I get myself in a hole because I can't talk them out of it. So I have to put the parents in charge and say they can't go. But sometimes the parents work against me, so it can be a little challenging sometimes. But I try to let them come and say, well, maybe next time that you got lots to do here. Your mom and dad don't want you to go. So we got to listen to what they tell you. Every once in a while, you get a mom and dad that wants to work against you. It's a little bit tougher.
Yeah, that's the problem there, isn't it? Dr. Bruce?
Well, I take Steve Gillum's white feather story, and
Uh-huh.
in this case, I will change that white feather story to say, well, don't you remember going? And I say, that's right. Did you find that white feather last year? And like for the homes that I've established a long tradition with, the children suddenly realized, that's right, we found a white feather last year, and we thought it was just the Christmas Eve visit. And I'll say, was it just Christmas Eve visit, or was it? Do you remember that the real cold chill on your cheeks, that incredible creamy hot chocolate, and you just see their eyes dancing, and that's how I handle it. That I don't give them a straight answer.
Kathy and Rex?
Well, I take a little more modern approach, something I think that especially the younger children understand. I tell them, Mrs. Claus is real particular about my safety. And so she doesn't like me to talk on the radio back to the North Pole or to check the maps or anything while I'm driving the sleigh. So there's only places for two people to sit in the sleigh, me and my co-pilot navigator, Elf. And the physics, the science things in the world that make you slide to the left and slide to the right when mom or dad take a corner too fast in the car. Well, those same things don't affect elves that way. So if I turn real sharp in the sleigh, the elf doesn't move. We're never worried about him. And there's only one seatbelt. That's for me. Mrs. Claus had him install a seatbelt just to fit around me so I wouldn't fall out of the sleigh, because every once in a while the reindeer like to do the loop. And so, there's really no safe place for you to ride in the sleigh. And Mrs. Claus would get very unhappy with Santa if I did something unsafe.
My answer is really kind of cut and dried. And I said, well, the sleigh only goes out on Christmas Eve, and Santa's on a very, very tight schedule, and we can't make a return trip to your house. We only have time to stop here one time, so we can't take you up to the North Pole.
Good answer. Shawn?
That's a really hard way to answer this. I think that what I would say is that part of the magic of Christmas is that children don't go to the North Pole. There's room enough for Santa and the elves, and they all work together to make the sleigh magic and make it get back and forth. But it's not a place for children. It's where we make the magic to bring to you. And then I would include and look at their parents or whomever they were with and said they would miss you so much that it would never work. But you can always believe and use your imagination what it would be like at the North Pole. And that's why we're here to visit you today, to talk about it. And then change the subject totally so that we could get off it.
Use diversion every chance you can. Liz?
I just defer it to Santa. Well, I don't know. You have to ask Santa.
Good point.
Pass the buck.
Throw that back on Tracy.
Thank you.
I'm by myself a lot, so I don't have Santa next to me to say.
I'm never by myself. I always get to pass the buck.
I like to tell them that how great it will be for you to come back from the North Pole, and we could possibly do it right now. But you need to understand that the elves, there's positions at the elves, and so when you go back to the North Pole, you've got to start at the bottom of the job things, and that will be working in the reindeer barn, and we'll be scooping up reindeer poo, and so that's where we have to start. And they usually don't want to go then. I mean, everybody's got to start somewhere and work their way up. So, All right. So here let's see here. Another popular question. Oh, wait. Whoop. Let's go here to a different one. Here's a good one. Does Mrs. Claus bake cookies every day? What is Santa or Mrs. Claus's favorite cookie? Let's start with Bruce.
Well, Mrs. Claus doesn't bake every day. No, because I also love baking. I love cooking. I love surprising Mrs. Claus with dinner. There's something about baking that is just so relaxing and so creative. But what I really love and what's really special for Mrs. Claus and myself, I know, and she's a phenomenal baker, but is when we get to bake and cook together. That is so special for us. In terms of favorite cookies, oh my goodness, like there are just like how can you pick how do you pick your favorite child? How do you pick your favorite reindeer? Um, there's just so many great things. And it depends what time of the year it is, how you're feeling. Like right now, the caramel melt, like it's a shortbread that's got a piece of caramel that you break it open and it just kind of melts. These wonderful fall days, the changing colors, like we were just in northern Michigan, central Michigan, and you just want something like that. So, our favorites are always changing.
How about Larry?
Well, my Mrs. Claus, she does kind of bake every day, but not really. She doesn't do all the baking, and she doesn't bake every day because, well, I don't like to say this, but Mrs. Claus is the one that's in charge of the North Pole, and so she's usually running the place while I'm out running around and doing my thing, and she's running the place. So she really don't have time, but she makes sure that there's cookies every day, and with as many elves as we have, they've got to bake cookies every day. And the cookie I like the most is usually the one that's in my hand heading to my mouth.
We've all used the round one, and Rick said that. I like this other Facebook user. He says, I have two favorite cookies, homemade and store-bought. How about Liz?
So I do not bake every day because I am working on doing all the things that need to be done in the North Pole. And sometimes Santa needs to have more than sugar. So we try to eat healthy. And so I do a lot of vegetables and healthy foods. And I have a lot of elves that do bake cookies. Sometimes they're not for Santa. Sometimes they bake cookies just for the elves. Sometimes they bake cookies for the reindeer because the reindeer love their little oatmeal cookies. And my favorite cookie is a snickerdoodle. And Santa's favorite cookie is all the cookies.
I'm guessing when the elves are making it, that's the Keeblers. Let's go over to Shawn White because I know Rex has probably got a story on this.
Well, I work at a bakery, and I have elves that actually are making cookies while I'm in there. So Mrs. Claus does not make cookies all the time, but I have elves that make the cookies. And Mrs. Claus is like the CEO of the kitchen in the North Pole and all candies and all that type of thing. I do tell the children that Santa's favorite cookie is decorated cookies with lots of sprinkles on it, lots and lots of sprinkles. And I usually get lots of little giggles, and the mothers are going, oh no. But the kids are going to do that, and they're going to go home and decorate their cookies. Or when I'm in the bakery with them, I tell them that, and they just go to town on these little cookies to take home for Santa. I do cook, and one of the stories that we're going to use this year, Jeff Wirtz from Ohio, I'm going to be working with, is we're going to talk about what's food's going to be waiting when he comes home Christmas Eve back to the North Pole. We're going to have a big pot of chicken and dumplings cooking on the stove. And I'm going to go into this big description to the children about what it's going to be, bubbling gravy with the dumplings on it, and it's going to smell good and all this stuff. So we've got a whole thing we're going to describe about eating at the North Pole. So
So now, I'm sorry. Now I just figured out what CEOs is, Claus Executive Officer. Is that right?
Yep.
All right, Kathy and Rex.
Well, I do bake every day, not as much as I used to because I delegate to the elves and they help me out. And like the other Mrs. Clauses, I do more than bake. It's not just all sugar and sweets. And so for Santa's favorite cookie, it changes every single day. It's whatever comes out hot first is what he likes the best.
And you know, I'll try to keep this not a story, but I always tell him, you know, Santa doesn't really have a favorite because I do. I love all cookies, all flavors, but on Christmas Eve night, while I'm delivering toys and you've put out milk and cookies, my absolute favorite cookie is the round ones. And I'll tell you why. I'm in such a rush. I'm moving so fast. Those little cookies that look like Christmas trees and Bethlehem stars and all those things, they have points. And sometimes I've poked my eye trying to rush through and take a bite of cookie. So I really, on Christmas Eve, prefer the round ones.
All right.
Ways to use diversion a little bit. I'll tell them I love all cookies, right? But let's talk about the one I don't like. Brussels sprouts and cabbage cookies. They're terrible. Don't try them. You won't like them. And they always get a giggle out of them. They go, ooh.
All right. So let's keep on that subject a little bit. And what is Santa's favorite food or meal? What about Mrs. Claus? And what do the elves eat? Tell us about that. Let's go over here to Shawn.
Well, like I said, he likes really home cooking, which I make in real life, so it's not real hard to describe stuff like that. The elves, I have actually elves that have worked with me, and my daughter is Elf Olive, and she's the head of the chocolate because she can do wonders with chocolate in real life. So Santa Claus loves that type of thing. I do want to add, when the children ask about the cookies and what Santa's favorite cookie is, I kind of try to pay attention to the child. And if I know that child's only going to be offering Oreos or something that night or whatever they may have, that I make sure that I say, what do you usually leave for Santa? And then I'll make a big deal about, oh my goodness, that is his favorite. Because I just want the child to be happy with no matter what their parents or whomever is giving them to leave out for Santa. So, So there you go.
I did a home visit one time and late at night. There was a sneak a peek, and they had Rice Krispie treats in foil wrappers. I'm thinking, boy, I just need to leave here. How about Larry?
Okay, what do the elves like to eat? Well, they like to eat just about anything because they've worked all day. So you can throw just about anything in front of them as long as it ain't bones, and they'll eat it. As far as what I like the fried chicken, tenderloins. Well, basically anything fried is what I like.
All right, Liz.
Santa Claus likes anything that's not healthy. So Mrs. Claus always has to force him to eat the healthy things. And I do that by hiding them in cookies and cake and ice cream. And he doesn't even know that the brownies have spinach in them. And the elves eat everything. They eat whatever they want. They like to snack a lot. They snack on candy all day long. And you know that movie, The Elf? They actually got something right in it. They love maple syrup.
Doesn't it go over spaghetti?
Well, you know, we were talking to Santa Claus last week, and he said pumpkin pie with whipped cream and maple syrup on that. So, you might be onto something there. How about Bruce?
Well, the elves actually are the ones when we went to the North Pole that were able to figure out how to grow produce, how to grow fruits and vegetables. So it is true. We all love sugary products. And our proximity to Labrador and Quebec and all that wealth of maple syrup, we are well connected for the maple syrup. So the film got that right. But it was the elves that showed Mrs. Claus and myself how to have these incredible balanced meals so that we can indulge in all these other treats. Comfort food, like who doesn't love comfort food? Like exactly, all of us thrive on that. And also, we are all very hardworking people. Like, and I don't think people understand Mrs. Claus. We're not just husband and wife, but she's the CFO of the North Pole. She's got that master's in industrial logistics. She knows how everything runs. And yet, 4 o'clock every day, we sit down, we have tea, and that's where those cookies and these other great little sandwiches. And the elves come up with these incredible vegetable little quiches and other healthy things that help balance things out. So actually, we we have elves and visitors from all across the world, so we get some of the best incredible culinary experiences. So it's really hard to see what is our absolute favorite, but you know what? It's that idea of home and that home cooked meal, and that we sit down and that we all share together.
And Bruce, we make pie. We like pumpkin pie, but we make it out of actual pumpkins. So
yeah, those little sugar pumpkins. Yeah. And by the way, if you know how to whip cream, you could put in a bit of maple syrup. You get the best maple whipped cream. Try it next month, but experiment first. It goes great in your coffee and in your tea. By the way.
All right, I got to go to get me a pumpkin pie. I'll talk to you guys later. All right, Rex. And
and I kind of look at my audience when I get questions like this and try to gear my answer towards the age of the child or the family I'm with at the time, and especially for the younger children. The elves, you know about elves. They're real mischievous. They're always getting into trouble and playing jokes and being mischievous. And they're actually, I swear, I think their favorite food is paint. In the workshop, more paintbrushes end up in mouths than I think are painting toys sometimes. But as far as Santa goes, now here, and I usually take this from a recent movie, The Christmas Chronicles, that Mrs. Claus has gotten so inventive because she's really had a hard time making me eat the things I should, that she's found ways to make spinach look like chocolate cake and Brussels sprouts to look like pumpkin pie and peas and corn to look like ice cream with chocolate syrup on top. And that's what all my meals look like in front of me. And it looks, and to me, it tastes just like it looks, but she tells me I'm actually eating pretty healthy.
Well, and just to add on to what Rex is saying, I was horrified this August. We had a bumper crop of zucchini, and we had chocolate loaf every morning during morning coffee. And Mrs. Claus said I was eating a day's healthy serving of zucchini in that bread. I was horrified. So exactly.
Well, before the show, I shared with you guys a picture of my wife as an elf. And now Rex just said that the elves like to eat paint. Well, this picture was taken of my wife today. And way too much paint. So I think Rex might be onto something. How about Kathy?
Well, I always say that it's really cold up at the North Pole. So I fix a lot of stew and chili and chicken and dumplings.
Not reindeer stew or chili.
No, okay. No, never. And the elf's favorite food is macaroni and cheese.
No wonder why. I'm part elf.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so for the next question, I'm going to pose to just the Mrs. Clauses, and the follow-up question that Spangle will have will be just for the Santas. So, Mrs. Clauses, how many elves do you all have? How do you name them? And who taught who to build toys? Was it the elves taught Santa or vice versa? Let's start with Kathy.
Well, they are so many. I got to tell you, they're running all over the place. So I can't keep track of how many there are. They do work all over the North Pole. They make toys, and they did teach Santa how to make some. But then when Santa traveled out in the world, he brought some other toys back that he then taught the elves how to make. So it's kind of a give and take with what comes from different places, and they kind of teach each other how to do that. Now, making toys is not the only jobs for the elves. We have a candy cane factory, and we have a gift wrapping department, and then there's the ladies and gentlemen who make all the clothes for the elves. So there's a lot for them to learn.
Shawn?
Okay. There's lots and lots of elves, and there's one elf in charge, and he keeps track of how many elves there actually are, because I cannot keep track of that number. They know what they're doing. Basically, Santa goes in there and checks and makes sure everything is okay. And then, of course, Mrs. Claus has to go in there and make sure everything's really okay. And after, but the elves are the ones that really know how to do the woodwork and to make the dolls. And what I really expanded on last year, which was a huge hit, was, do you know there's actually a barn that's pink? We have so many Barbies now, Barbies everywhere. And it's my favorite barn to walk into. So we have specialty of Barbies, and the elves that only do that. So I have my one in charge that is kind of like my assistant. And then we have others that are kind of in charge of the barns, just like a corporation would be, I guess you could say. So the number changes, there's switch around jobs sometimes. Sometimes they get tired and want to do the other jobs. But there's so many barns and so much going on. It's just like the reindeer. It's hard to keep track of the numbers.
At least they want to do jobs, unlike a lot of the population now.
Liz, what's your take?
If the children ask me how many elves, again, I would say, I don't know how many elves there are. I know they're everywhere. And I know that there's so many elves that we had to send them out into the world. So sometimes they're all over the place where you don't even know you're looking at an elf. And, those little elf on the shelves, we send those out to watch you too, because we just have so many there that we had to send them out to have other jobs. We don't have enough jobs for all of them. And they make toys. They go and check out other toys that are at stores that we can maybe make and maybe change and improve. And we don't actually name a lot of the elves. They have a number. When they come to you as an elf on the shelf, those don't have names yet. They're just numbered so that you can name them. And then we get a report back from them what they've been named. And the elves I work with that are the heads of the other departments, we usually name them based on traits, whether or not they're swift or funny or creative. They end up with a name, kind of like a nickname that you get, and it just sticks with them. But a lot of them were named before I even met them, so I don't know how all of them got their names. The elves are much older than me and Santa Claus.
So do the elves work at all the stores and businesses at the North Pole, including the workshop? Come on, guys. What is your answer? Larry.
They run everything. Of course, again, I have to say that Mrs. Claus, since I'm hardly ever there, because I'm always gone looking and either trying to find supplies or checking on boys and girls. So I'm there at night, and that's pretty much it. Kind of like a lot of parents are now. They're the fathers at work and maybe even the mothers at work at home, but um, Mrs. Claus is the one's in charge. So um, the elves have got to take care of themselves, and so they take a good job, take care of themselves real well, and they've got their own little system. We hardly have to interfere at all. They take care of everything pretty well.
Rex, let's hear your story.
Well, yeah, the elves have all the jobs at the North Pole, and not all of them make toys. I mean, you've seen the movies and things on TV and in the theater. We have dentist elves and doctor elves. The names, well, elves are just like people. They have families, moms and dads, and they have young ones, and they grow up, and so moms and dads get to name the babies, and so that's how they get their names, is from all of them. Basically, the ones that we really know and care about the most are our supervising elves, like Spoons. Spoons, the elf in charge of the kitchen and the cafeteria. And TB stands for Tool Belt. He's the head of the maintenance department and takes care of all the machinery in the buildings, and his crew does all of that, right? Yeah, we do have an elf named Bernard. He's really not my chief elf, but he thinks he is because of the movie people. But yeah, they do all the things, and they have all these different jobs, just like people all around the world do. And the truth is, yes, Mrs. Claus is the main supervisor. She's the one that's up there. I'm always out gallivanting around the world, showing off. So, but I try to help out when I'm there. And, just to go back to one of Mrs. Claus' things, the making of the toys, who taught who. One of my favorite Christmas movies of all time is one most children nowadays have never seen. And it's called Santa Claus the Movie. It came back out in 1984. And I loved the backstory in that movie of how the Vendergelt, the elves, were already at the North Pole, already making toys when they found Santa and Mrs. Claus and brought them to the North Pole and made them immortal. So that's always the kind of the way I go into that. Most children nowadays have never seen that movie.
So, Bruce, Rex said that they have a doctor elf up there. So, when you're done doing what you're doing and you're wanting a new career, maybe you can head that way.
I'm game. Sure, I'd be game. But just to expand our North Pole, Mrs. Claus and I were actually having high tea a few years ago with a good friend of ours, Charles Dickens, and his wife. And I don't know if you know Charles Dickens much, but he's written a few books, and it was really interesting just to hear he and his wife talk about how glorious Great Britain became because of the Industrial Revolution, but how it just ravaged families and and what it did to people, and so we were back home saying, well, like we're telling the elves about this, and we said, well, we don't want to repeat the same mistake as what's going on in Europe right now. So we came up with a plan that the elves work in different shifts. So they have maybe like about 3 weeks in one shop area, and then they change out and they go to a different shop area so that they can explore and take their skills to different areas at the North Pole. And just as what Rex said, it's not just toy making. Like, we are our own sustainable community up there. In terms of elves that live full time and run North Pole City, at our last census back in 2020, I believe we have 8,643 elves living full time. Now, that's not talking about scout elves, visitor elves, the other fairies and spirits that come, and also just everyday humans who come out and help out for a few months at a time. And the thing is, it takes an entire village to make Christmas happen, to create these memories for everyone. And one thing I learned from Carnegie is we must try to learn people's names, because their name is their identity. And to lift someone up, you need to know their name. And we're all of us, myself, Mrs. Claus, all the elves work diligently, and we're very conscious. And if we forget someone's name, we politely ask and apologize. I'm sorry, I forget your name. Would you remind me? And there's something about building teamwork like that.
You know, you talk about addressing people by their name. I know, like when I go to the store and Walmart and things like this, I always try to read their name tag and address them. And even if they got their name tag on backwards, I'll say something about the backside of their name tags. And, well, hello, Miss Backside, or and they're like, what? Your name tag, you know?
Yep.
I like to address them, as you said.
Yep.
All right, guys, let's take a little bit of a break here. We're going to do the TNL Productions trivia real quick. So we're going to go over to Angela for the Alethian. All right, trivia question for the North Pole Cornerstone Scholarship brought to you by TNL Productions, a $450 value. Winner to be drawn on our live show November 7th. That's 2 weeks away during the TNL Send Off to Christmas season finale, which will be episode 41. Until then, each Monday and Tuesday, trivia winners have been going into the hat for the drawing again on November 7th. Our trivia question is, name the musical drama film about a female Tejano music star who was shot and killed by an ex-employee. In the film, there was a scene where the two characters elope, then get married and celebrate their marriage during a romantic walk along the Riverwalk in San Antonio, Texas. Name the film, name the actress and actor who played the lead roles, and what was the release date of the film, and what date was that person that we're talking about murdered? So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 answers altogether. In the film, there was a scene where the two characters escaped and got married, celebrated their marriage during a romantic walk along the Riverwalk in San Antonio. Need the name of the film, name the actor and actress, what was the release date of the film, and what date was the original character that we're talking about murdered.
And we need all those answers in one message.
Yeah, please. Makes it easier on Angela. And before we go on and move into our product announcement, we want to mention that next week is our 3rd annual Halloween costume show that we've had, as I posted today on the group. Over 17 the last 2 years. Only had 4 as of this afternoon, folks that have signed up for it. I've got a couple that are in communication with me saying they want to sign up, trying to get a character put together for what they want to be. But guys, if you want to be on the Halloween show, you know, Spangle gives away some pretty good stuff during that show for a whole host of different types of costumes and, you know, best costume. And so again, and we got independent judges lined up. You did get the independent judges lined up, right, Spangle?
Yes. This year, we are giving away Post-it notes. Get your own Post-it note.
How cool is that? I mean, golly, that's worth getting dressed up for right there, right?
Well, I'm telling you,
it's always been fun. We've always had a really good time, and we're, hey, just if you want to be, let me know. And we've only got a few days to put this thing together and get it lined up. So let me know if you do as soon as possible, and we'll go from there. All right. Have you had enough time yet, Angela?
We have some coming in. So.
Okay, still got some stuff coming in. All right. Well, what we're trying to do is I back these trivia questions up back to back, and so she's got
Rex.
Rex.
I have a question about the Halloween show, Bob.
Okay.
Is there going to be a Scott Parker rule for the Halloween show?
As far as who won last year?
You know how Scott Parker, if you've ever won anything, you're out.
Yeah.
That's Scott Parker rule. No, I'm just teasing.
No. We wouldn't do that. But hey, speaking of Scott, he works at a haunt up there where he's living now in Illinois, and Bob, the caretaker. Many of you probably know about Bob, but he's going to be on the show. Now, he's not going to be a contestant because that wouldn't be fair. He's got a makeup artist that makes him up for each night's work, but he is going to leave his character on and come on to the show. So it'll be fun, if nothing else. Melissa Lynn wrote me yesterday and said that she got her computer equipment set back up, and she's coming in. She's got a fantastic character from the Addams Family. Going to be fun. Rex is in. He's got a character that's going to blow everybody away. Pretty cool, pretty fun. We've mentioned that a time or two. So AJ's coming. So
My wife and I will be dressed up, but of course we won't be competing.
Right, exactly. Okay, so can we move along, Angie?
Yes, we are.
All right. Yeah, what I started to explain was I lined these trivia questions back to back, and she's got answers coming in. It's kind of hard for her to do two back to back. So next season, I'm going to have to figure out a way not to do that, right? Okay, let's go over to our product announcement, and she's going to have the lead in. We'll be back in just a second.
Hello.
Hey! Will somebody get the kid a Happy Meal?
No, don't do that.
Stop the show. It's time for Spangle, the Showstopper special, and StuffForSanta.com. Let's talk about it, Spangle.
All right, here we go. We're going to do some stickers. We got to get you guys ready for your season. I'm at Santa stickers. These are 2 inches. They're 200 on a roll. If you buy 5 rolls, okay, that's going to get you 1,000 stickers, okay? But if you buy 1,000 of these 2-inch stickers, we're going to give you 3,000 of these 1.5-inch stickers. And I really like these 1.5-inch stickers because they're just right for the children's hand. A lot of the children like their sticker on their hand. They're not that overpowering. So you buy 1,000 of these, you're going to get 3,000 more of these. So send me a message. It'll be $50. We're not going to charge you for shipping or anything like that. You're going to end up with a whole bunch of stickers, like 4,000 stickers. That ought to be enough for your season. So send me a message.
Wow, scared me there for a minute. When he said stickers, I thought he's pulling the Post-it notes out again. And that is good through next Monday, October 30th. By the way, I did not mention, but the Halloween show will not be next Tuesday night. It will be on Monday because Tuesday is Halloween. Everyone will be having trick-or-treaters by the house. So we're going to do it on Monday, 7 p.m. Monday. And since we're not having a Bob and Randall and Company live preview show, because yesterday was our season finale on that show, Randy will be with us next week on the panel. All right, let's go ahead and do the let the puppy back in. Going to go ahead and run the Santa Claus commercial. We'll be right back.
Oh, hello there. Yes, of course, it's me, Santa Claus. Now, you may not believe this, but one of the questions I get asked the most is, Well, not how do I do it all in one night. No, but where do I get all my things from? Yes, now, what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the finest things I have. My glorious gloves, all my knickknacks and trinkets and things. Yes, all the giveaways. Yes, for me to give to the children before the main event. Yes, if I see them in the streets, if they come and see me, I like to have something in my pocket I can treat them with. Yes, and there's one special place where I can find all these magical goods. And that is, of course, stuffforsanta.com. You should head there now and see what magical gifts you can find. Mrs. Claus, have you got my ice pad? Yes, log me on. I'm going to have a look. I shall see you there. Stuffforsanta.com. Merry Christmas.
All right, guys, trivia time. The winner of the trivia will get a roll of each of these, the big roll and the little roll. Okay, in the 1980s, a popular TV series was created with the ugly sweater. Later on, a popular Christmas movie was credited for adding the holiday twist to their tradition. Name the series, the movie, and what day is designated to be National Ugly Sweater Day. Also, and where was the first ugly holiday sweater party credited to be held? We need all four answers. So, in the 1980s, a popular TV series was credited with the ugly sweater. Later on, a popular Christmas movie was credited for adding the holiday twist to the tradition. Name the series, the movie, and what day is designated to be the National Ugly Sweater Day. Also, and where was the first ugly holiday sweater party credited to be held? And I know you guys think it was at Spangle's house, but it wasn't.
Guys,
there are a few ugly sweaters in my closet, but I think I had some ugly sweaters before ugly sweaters were even a thing. I'd have seen some of the things Mom gave me to wear to school.
yeah, and for me, I'm right next to Spencer's at my Santa set at the mall, and for about 2 weeks each year, they put up a display in the window facing right at me. It has all the ugly sweaters on it that they are popular ones, but 8 or 10 of them, and I always get a kick out of what they put up each year. All right, moving on to the second half of tonight's program, let's continue our conversation with our featured panel of expert closets. Now, can everyone stay with us? Does anybody need to leave, or are you all in for the second half?
Nope, we're here.
Good.
Okay, fantastic. All right, over to you, Spangle.
I'll stick around. Clauses, this is a question that every little one wants to know. How do you know where I live? Larry, please don't make this creepy.
Don't make it what? Don't make it what did you say, Spangle?
Don't make it creepy.
Creepy. Yeah. I go around, that watching you while you're sleeping. That's pretty creepy.
It is.
But no, we keep good records. The elves know where you are. If I don't, I'm not really in charge of much of anything. I kind of get to do what I want. I got a pretty good job. But I will have to say this. I do work harder than most people in one night than they do all year long. So I make up for it. That's for sure. I delegate most of my stuff. So the elves, for one thing, that elves know where I'm going to be at every moment. They know, and they're the ones that hand me the toys. Because another thing, we get these legends things that happen. You see the big sleigh with the big toy bag on the back, but you can't really put that many toys even in that big bag. My bag actually is empty. The elves are at the other end of the portal that's in the bottom of my bag, and they hand me the toys, so they know exactly who I'm going and what you asked for. I'm just the guy that grabs it out of the bag and puts it under the tree.
So you're just taking the credit for all the work.
That's what I do best.
How about Liz?
Well, that's kind of a Santa question because I don't go to their houses, except that when we're visiting and the parents told us where they're going to be so that we can check up on them and get their Christmas lists. And then we get the directions from the parents. But I don't know how Santa knows where you live.
There you go. Put it back on Santa again.
I think Liz walks in doing this.
And Tracy's watching it out. I just wonder what he's thinking.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Bruce.
Again, just to, as what Larry was saying, just the quality of record keeping up at the North Pole. All these software companies have been learning from us about how to organize information, and the elves and Mrs. Claus's ideas have kept us organized for hundreds of years. So it's just careful data collection and always making sure that we're always up to date. And those letters that the children write us are so important because that's how we can reconfirm addresses.
How about Mrs. Shawn White?
I would say that just like Bruce just said, that we're very organized and the elves are on top of it. They know where everybody is. They know if you've moved. They know if you're living with dad this year at Christmas or with mom. They're going to find you because this is very important that Santa knows where to take your toys. The other thing that I've heard is that somehow they have a number system maybe for the houses. And when they land on roofs, they can tell by some sort of number system. So that also works really well for the elves. So
yeah, I tell them GPS on the sleigh coordinates with the number that's on the roof, and don't climb up there because you can't see it. Only the sleigh can.
Right.
And that's how we know.
Well, I think some of these elves need to work with America's Most Wanted. How about Kathy and Rex?
Well, on my end, we have a very organized list, and it goes in order so that each gift is placed in the same order as the list is. So they will come out as each particular house is reached. As long as Santa knows the starting point, he'll never make a mistake.
And my story and Larry's are very much alike, and I will fully blame this on the fact that he and I roomed together at School of Santas this year.
Where did you room together at?
At School of Santas in beautiful Branson, Missouri. No, my bag is mostly empty. We carry a few toys in there, little stuffed animals and stuff in case something breaks down. But there is a portal vortex that goes straight back to the North Pole. And in my bag, the children can look in and see this portal vortex at the bottom of the bag. And there's GPS locator. That's where GPS come from. Most people don't know that we actually invented it at the North Pole. As the population grew, it got harder and harder, and the elves came up with GPS, and we let the military have it first. So it knows exactly where I am in the world. The elves have this beautiful record-keeping system of all the information, and the correct toy for the correct location and correct child comes right through the vortex to my hand as I'm going down the chimney.
Now, in Rex's world, he carries those extra small toys just in case when he's doing those loop-de-loops, he loses one.
So GPS must be getting fat Santa, PHAT. How about, do we get Bruce on that one?
Bruce is next.
I already answered this. Just
Oh, okay.
the idea that our record keeping is just spot on. In fact, like all these other software companies, and actually Interpol is always checking with us if we could help them out. So yeah,
That must be Liz that we missed.
No, we all
No,
answered.
we got
Got
it.
everybody.
Oh,
Got
okay.
everybody. All right, so this one is for Santas. Does Santa really come down the chimney, and how can he if there's a fire in the fireplace? Rex?
Well, Santa's magic comes from a very special place. We have a group of elves that take a couple of reindeer and they go out and collect the dust dropped from the aurora borealis, the northern lights that we have up at the North Pole, and it's very magical dust and sprinkles that come out of there. And that's what helps Santa. I can sprinkle it a little and it helps me just zip right down that chimney. It's almost like that teleporter on Star Trek, right? From the sleigh right into the living room, right down the chimney. And if there's a fire, this dust from the aurora borealis will put the fire out, let me do my thing. Once I come back up, the dust follows the wind draft as I come back up the chimney, and the fire magically relights.
I can see Rex going down, but I want video of him coming up.
All right, Larry, how about you?
Okay, now I'm muted. Yeah, I used to go up and down the chimneys a lot, but I never did like it. In fact, you never did know when there's some coals smoldering down there. But even back when everybody had chimneys, I snuck in the front door because even in those days, most of the time, especially at Christmas time, they left the door open. You didn't have to have a magic key even. You just sneak in the front door because it wasn't locked. But it was fun, kind of going up down the chimneys. But I think I like going in the front door nowadays. About 90% of the people don't even have a chimney anymore, so you have to go in the front door anyway. So the magic key looks great. I like the magic key the elves make. They come up with some neat stuff.
And I do think the majority of us do have a magic key hanging off our belts now. So that always fits in. Dr. Bruce?
Well, yes, we still use the chimney whenever we can. As Rex said, the aurora borealis is such a magical experience, and there's just so many benefits that the lights give us. That one of it is that it does help us move through chimneys, take care of fires, relight fires, and so forth. But there are some situations where it's really tricky, and that magic key does come in handy, and especially to get larger gifts in, using that magic key is really helpful. But
Especially that Barbie dream house.
Oh my goodness, have you seen how many orders that we've gotten for it so far? Oh my goodness, it's been quite something.
I got my order in.
You've got 2 orders in, I noticed. You want that expander set for it.
Well, one for home and one for work.
Yeah, okay, fine.
I like to play.
Keep on being good, and make sure that you brush your teeth twice a day, right, Spangle?
Right.
Good.
Put them in the jar.
Shake it up hard. Yeah, good.
All right, here's one just for the Mrs. Clauses. What improvements has Santa made through the decades to increase efficiency in the toy shop? Shawn?
Well, he's still making the old-fashioned stuff because he just sent me these to take around. I would say just modernize the everything's as modern as it would be in any country that you're in, and they still do it the old-fashioned way, and they still like to work with the wood and to make the The things that you see in the older movies and such, that's still being made, and the history of Santa Claus is still there with all of that. So no matter how modern they do get, we'll always have that for us. But it's modern, changes just like everywhere else.
And the reason I went with Mrs. Claus's for this question is we all know that Mrs. Claus pays the bills and wears the pants. All improvements are made right there. Kathy, how about you?
Well, we established a conveyor belt system that has worked out really well to help move the toys along after the elves complete each task. We don't run it too fast because that's a disaster, but it does help reduce the number of steps back and forth from the different areas of the workshop.
I remember when we did that, you had Henry Ford come up and you had meetings with him about how to do that.
That's right. That's right. So that helped a lot. Now, I will say it was my idea, not Santa's, but I do let him have the credit for it.
Well, when you say conveyor belt, that makes me think about Lucy and Ethel.
In the chocolate factory.
Chocolate factory. When you said disaster, that's what popped in my mind.
Yeah. All right, let's take these next couple questions to the guys. What improvements have you made in your delivery sleigh to make it more efficient? Rex.
Well, again, that aurora borealis, those northern lights, some of that dust, that's what we give. We sprinkle it in the oatmeal that we feed to the reindeer, and it helps them fly. We power the sleigh a little bit with it. It's what lets us move so fast through the whole night, is that magic we get from the aurora borealis. So really no new technology other than GPS, locators, and things like that.
All right, Dr. Bruce.
Well, yes, the aurora borealis, the GPS, but I think for me personally, the biggest technological improvement has been that Yeti mug that Mrs. Claus gave me 2 years ago at Christmas. My hot chocolate stays cold all night, and it's wonderful.
No, wait a minute. Your hot chocolate stays cold all night?
I mean, it stays so warm. Sorry. You know, this North Pole thing right now. Yeah, stays. Yeah, it just stays perfect temperature.
You know, flipping those things around hot and cold and things like that. You know, I've been thinking all night. You know, I keep thinking Dr. Bruce. I keep thinking Dr. Seuss. And now you just proved yourself.
There are days. Yes.
Larry.
Yeah, I don't know how many of you guys have seen the movie Prep and Landing, but they got a lot of stuff really, really good there. I mean, most of the time these movies and shows are just thinking up crap, and they actually give us some ideas sometimes. But yeah, we have the team of elves that go there and get everything prepped before I land, and it's ready to go. And they've got so efficient doing that now, getting everything ready for the land, stop, and get out. And it's like, again, I'm so happy with my elves and everything they do for me. It makes my job really, really easy. So yeah, just all the pre-planning that they do and getting ready for me makes it go so much faster.
All right, let's go with Santa Larry again. But the question is, Grandpa was my best friend and my fishing buddy. Can your magic bring him home for Christmas from heaven?
Well, Santa can do a lot of things, but one thing he can't do is bring people back from the dead. And I'm a toy maker. I will take and listen to what you got to say, and I know a lot of people, and if you want me to get your information, and I will let other people that you probably know about it. And if you're having trouble with it, you let me know, and we'll get people to help you with this situation.
All right, Dr. Bruce.
That was just a beautiful response, Larry. And this is, I think, the one question that all of us have fears of facing each year. And it's not that we don't know what to say or how to say it. It's that, you know, we have this wonderful gift that we've been called to be Santa, Mrs. Claus, the Christmas performers, and to spread joy. And it's so difficult for us not to be able to make everything all right. And I think that's what's so difficult for us. But I think one of the most beautiful responses, and Larry was, you know, is right on about the idea that it's not just you being alone and dealing with that loss, that grief, but knowing that, you know, that there's others there for you. And as Santa, I always carry that little red prayer book, that blank book, and I will take time out just to say, you know, listen, between you and me, let me just write down your name, your grandma's name, so that every night I'm thinking about you and about who you are missing so much right now. And I just think that all of us have to allow ourselves to have that moment. You know, as Larry said, and I totally agree, you know, we make toys. You know, our calling was, as St. Nicholas, was to take care of our community, to take care of each other. And granting wishes isn't always taking care of people, but the ability to be there and to extend help is the really giving back to the community. So it's difficult, but I think that just letting them know that we're listening, that we hear them, and that they will always be in our thoughts.
All right, Rex.
Well, and I tell them, you know, bringing some loved one back, body and soul, is only possible by one being in all the universe and all creation. And that being is not Santa Claus.
Right.
But remember, just because the body is not with you, and if you remember back when Grandpa was alive, he wasn't always with you. You just got to visit with him once in a while. One advantage he has by being in heaven is he is 100% of the time in your heart. He is always with you, always watching over you. Okay. And, you know, the one being in the world that can do this is a very good friend of mine. And I talk to him several times a day. So I'll make sure to mention it to him that you want to make sure that his grandfather is doing well, and that, you know, that he does know you care and miss him. But remember, he's always right here with you now that he's in heaven.
Very good. I can give you a good example of how not to answer that question.
I'll bet you can.
Grandpa was my best friend and my fishing buddy. Can your magic bring him home for Christmas from heaven? Well, yes, my magic could bring him home for Christmas from heaven, but unfortunately, that's not where he ended up.
Oh.
So that's not how to answer that question.
Okay, change which list Spangle is on. Right
Yeah, I'll make a note of that.
No Barbie house for you, Spangle.
Sorry, guys.
Can I answer that one too? Can I answer that one also?
Yeah, you bet.
You know, sometimes they just want to be heard, and sometimes over talking and explaining to them what they already kind of know the answer. But, you know, basically, can I hug you? And, you know, oh, thank you for this beautiful warm hug. You know, Santa's a toy maker, and that's just not a gift he can bring. But your grandpa already gave you a wonderful gift. He always loved you, and you got to, every time you go fishing, you'll think of him, and you'll always have that gift in your heart. And I am so glad that you shared that with me, and that you were brave enough to tell me how you were feeling. And I know that grandpa still loves you, and he'll be with you forever. So sometimes they just want to talk and say it, and they want to know that you care. And just a hug, and just, you know, we see you, we understand you, and you're very brave for talking about it. It's,
And can I add on to what 100% what you're saying, Liz? But what I would also add is I would also take the child close, hug, or on my lap or whatever. And I would ask the child if they had special memories at Christmas time with their grandpa. And if they said yes, I would say, well, that's the Christmas spirit. And every Christmas you can have him with you if you think about him. And you can still feel that Christmas spirit every year. Even though he's not here, he'll still always be with you. Mm-hmm. And just let the child talk, like you said, Liz, and get through it. And then usually the children are pretty satisfied. They do want to just be heard. They do know, like you said, they know. But that's what I would do.
Kathy, you got anything to add to that?
I agree with what everybody said. A hug and an understanding voice, and depending on the function. Like I've done a lot of church parties, and sometimes we'll say a little prayer and mention Grandpa and make sure that he's looked after up in heaven.
That is a tough question and great answer by everyone. Larry, you got something to add?
Yeah, something that kind of come up, and I not done this, but since we got this panel here, I want to throw it out there and see what everybody thinks. What do you think about this idea? Is to have something that you actually give the child that they could write a note to their grandparent that they could put under the tree that you would pick up on Christmas to take back and see if it can't be given back to them.
Guys, I'd like to make a special product announcement. No.
It's a great idea, I think. My only concern would be now we got to make sure mom or dad remember to pick it up.
Right. You would have to if you did that, you would have to do a conference afterwards to let mom and dad know they got to follow through.
You know what? I quite often have the children writing out their letters to Santa, and I help them. If something like that came up, I could actually have the child sit and write something on that letter, and I would make sure it would be the first one that got to the elves. I'd make a big deal about it and fold it up with them and put it in a special place in my pocket or something because it was a special letter. So you could do it right there. Take it with you.
I think that would be a neat thing to try to implement into a visit and be prepared for. I like the idea of the prayer book. I've heard of that before, and that's pretty good. But I really just sitting here listening to it come up with that thought and thought, let's throw it out there, and maybe between the people that are listening and you guys, maybe we can come up with something, a story that it might work.
Thank you for saying that, because I will keep that in my mind.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. It's kind of why I like to room with Larry at these things sometimes, but it also shows us that at 74, sometimes your mind will wander.
There's the little red prayer book that I think Bruce was talking about.
Yep.
And that's the cool part about getting clauses together in this forum as we have tonight. The ideas that can come out and the different ways of looking at things and implementing those. Fantastic. And I love Shawn's idea of being able to take it with her at that time. And great stuff, guys. Okay, so that kind of brings us to the next question. And I'm going to pose this to the three Mrs. Clauses first and Santa's second. Do you receive all the letters children write? And do you read them all? And Mrs. Claus, you can answer this. Do you help Santa read them all, or is there an elf that takes care of all that? Let's go ahead and start with Kathy.
Well, all the letters are read all the time. I read the majority of them, but the special ones, I make sure that Santa reads the really, really tough ones, the special needs or whatever, and give them directly to him. Otherwise, I kind of have a system where they go in different stacks for different elves to handle each of the letters requests. But every one of them is read. And mostly by me first.
We all know Mrs. Claus is a much better reader than Santa.
That's a speed. I took that speed reading class, and that's really helped a lot.
Speed reading does help. Liz?
So Santa's eyesight's getting a little blurry as he's getting older. You notice he's always wearing his glasses. I wear my glasses too, but sometimes we'll sit together and I'll read the letters out loud to him. And sometimes we don't even have to read them. He can just feel your magic through the letters and he knows what they say. So we read every single one and they get categorized and noted and files. And oh my goodness, the system is crazy. The elves know what they're doing. It all goes exactly where it goes, whether you send us a video or an email or a text message or a letter. And, you know, we have so many ways we get your communication and we pay attention to all of them. And if anything ever goes wrong, you can write us a letter after Christmas and we'll see what we can do about fixing it.
Very good, Shawn.
Well, actually, I just bought a new mailbox to take with me to the bakery this year. The children write the letters, and sometimes it's really interesting because the older ones are a little apprehensive about it. But after spending a few minutes, I start talking to them and find out something in common. And next thing you know it, they're writing a list out to Santa, and it just makes me so happy that happens. These letters are going right with me. There's an elf waiting for them as soon as I get back. It's so important. And they all know it, and we fold it a certain way and put it into the bag is what I carry it in. Santa will see them after they're categorized, like Liz said, and they're put in a certain order. He looks through all of them. I read them all. I make sure that I sometimes tell Santa about the child that wrote them. And they're kept forever. They never disappear. They're always just categorized and put away. We never lose your letter. It's very important. So,
do any of the Santas have anything to add to any of this?
Yeah, I think that people don't realize that most of our morning is spent reading letters. Like, you know, like one of our biggest pastimes at the North Pole, among other things, is just reading books, reading novels, reading poetry. But reading letters is so important to us. And Mrs. Claus and I and we have a whole team of elves that I know I sit there, have a coffee or a hot chocolate that's always kept warm in my Yeti mug. And you know, actually, I feel really blessed that I could spend my morning connecting with everyone through these letters that they've handwritten. And it's amazing how many are still handwritten and not done on a word processor. So I really appreciate that.
I think a lot of people don't realize that the more letters Santa has to read, the less work he has to do. So he's all about reading the letters.
And speaking of reading, I just want to make a quick point here. We have had so many comments tonight. It's unbelievable. Different responses at different Santas, Mrs. Clauses are adding over into the chat. We don't have time to cover all those tonight because this is going to be a rather long show. We still got things to discuss. Go back tomorrow, the next day, tonight, in your spare time, and look at some of these comments because, man, they have really been coming in. Some great points, some different point of views from what our panel has said. Okay, Spangle, back to you.
All right. So what do you think about the commercialization of Christmas? Let's go to Mrs. White.
Sometimes it's rather disturbing to me because I have children coming in and scared to death of Santa Claus, and it's because of the way everything's went and the movies that are out and parents that maybe don't make the best decisions on what their children watch. So they bring them to me in the bakery, and I spend a lot of time talking about Santa to these children. This has happened more than one time, and making Santa who he should be, a loving, caring, gentle man, not a scary person, so that the children can go visit Santa after they leave me. So that's kind of hard sometimes, and that's what I find. But I am Mrs. Claus vintage, so I'm always bringing history and reading old books and talking and using old toys, props, bells, leather, smells, all the things that take all the commercialization out of Christmas and make you feel and smell and all that type of stuff. And it depends the businesses that I go to. Like if I'm at the lavender business at the store, they're going to have cookies with lavender. They're going to smell lavender. I'm going to make stories up about lavender. That's taken all the commercial stuff out of it too. So I do play on the senses quite a bit with what I'm doing, I guess, to just get rid of that for a few minutes and give the child some magic for them for the season.
All right, let's go to our center square, Liz.
Well, commercialization is kind of a tricky word, because the funny thing is we're in the business of commercialization because we're portraying an image. And so I would say in a different way, I think it's great to have the opportunities that we have because of commercialization to reach out to children and show them that they're loved and cared for and they're thought of. So I would say in a way, we have an advantage because of it. We can go to businesses, we can go to homes, we can be at the big box store and give them just glimpses of actual humanity, human touch, human emotion, even if it's a virtual. Some of these children that now, are on the spectrum, they're getting to have something emotional and personable in their homes, which they wouldn't be able to get elsewhere. So there's a lot going on, there's twisting what the Christmas spirit is all about. But the great thing is, we're new in the industry. We're new in this world, and it gives us hope, seeing so many like-minded people trying to make a difference in humans' lives. I mean, we're going from tiny babies to, the elderly, everything. And to me, it's kind of special to be a part of this group and to see that the commercialization is giving all of us an opportunity to do something different in the world and show what Christmas spirit really is.
Kathy and Rex?
Well, I think there's two types of commercialization. One is the fact that we're known and then we're brought into people's homes or into their lives. When I was growing up, nobody ever had a Santa come to their house to visit. It just wasn't ever thought of. So in that respect, it's very good for us. What I don't like is the overemphasis on expensive toys and, you have to have this, you have to have that. So when I talk to the children, I try to rein that in a little bit and say, okay, well, now, do you really know the true meaning of Christmas and what it's supposed to bring? And let's think about simplifying some of these desires and overabundance of stuff that really isn't what's important about the season.
And first off, I want to thank both Liz and Kathy for your answers, because when I saw this question, I was so worried that I was going to be out of step with everybody on my opinion on this. You see, I think the commercialization of Christmas is really a catch-22. Okay. If it wasn't for the commercialization, most of us Christmas performers would not be doing what we're doing. Okay. We wouldn't have the opportunities we have to go out here and portray Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, the gift giver. And to improve on that part, at least for those of us that are true believers and look at this sort of as a ministry too, that increases our opportunity to bring the true meaning of Christmas back to our visits to our encounters with children and with families. You know, one of my favorite stories to tell is about the very first Christmas and the greatest gift ever given. So I think I have that opportunity to do that because of the commercialization of Christmas.
Dr. Bruce?
Thank you. Just to keep on building, I think, you know, all four responses so far are just incredible. And for me, how I feel, and from what I'm hearing, and where I want to move this to is, we have to stop feeling as if we're being victimized by mass marketing, and we need to actually take control of it again. And Rex, thank you for just mentioning that that we have to know where we've come from, and we have to know why we do what we do. That this just isn't a job. It's not a career. It's a true profession. It's a profession of calling. And if you think about the difference between the term profession and job, it's light years apart. The idea of professing that you're responding to a call, I think, is so important. And we are in a position, just as what Liz said, that we could take advantage of this. And Kathy also talked about this, that we use our situation, we use where our home base is. Like all of us come from different parts of the continent, and we build off that. I love Shawn's examples, just like anchoring it into the different shops, the different experiences. So the idea of commercialization, I don't think any of us agree that the biggest, most expensive gift is going to share the gift of love. If people have that ability, that's who they are. But the true thing is, what we're all talking about is that, how do we share love, though, or as we call it, that magic, the magic of Christmas, is that how do we express love? How do we express caring? How do we express tenders, community, awareness of each other? Like is previous questions, being the ability, the simple gift of just listening. And I know I do talk a lot, but in these situations, we're called to listen. We're called to give the gift of attentiveness, the gift of presence, not present, but presence, and be there for them. And I realize that manufacturers want to sell, but we're there as a guidepost, as a reminder of why we celebrate. Like, why do we do this?
Amen.
Goes back to that first Christmas. How about Larry?
I'm going to pass because I can't really improve on what we said, and we need to move along anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Great. And the commercialization of Christmas, that question came from the Elf on the Shelf, actually, because there's some guys in the red suit community that think that they be down because of it. Most of us have embraced it. I mean, I have fun with Elf on the Shelf, but that's kind of where that question came from. But fantastic response by all of you. All right. So on the other hand, what do you think about the impact of technology on Christmas, the electronics, that sort of thing? Let's start with Dr. Bruce again.
Oh, thanks. I will keep this brief. I use it to the hilt. People say, well, how do you know what's going on? I say, well, come on. I've got an iPhone. Mrs. Claus bought me an iPhone 15. I know what's going on. And I am such a dad with this stuff. My students they just shake their heads that I can't even get the slideshow working half the time in the rehearsal hall, but technology, if you think about it, Christmas 2020, if it wasn't for technology and for these different platforms, it would have been a real dark Christmas. But, you know, and look how we've become a community, how we've met each other because of those experiences. So, you know, do we curse technology? Yes. But, you know, we also celebrate it and we dance with it, you know, and you know, as a university educator, I remember 10, 15 years ago when Wikipedia came out, and everyone was saying that's gonna be the death of the university, and now it's like, yeah, just check your sources, and just like we're all terrified over AI, you know, we will find ways, just like commercialization, to reclaim it and claw it back. I sound like Pollyanna, but you know, it's there. Let's use it, because if we don't use it, someone will tell us how to use it.
You know, you're talking about Winnipeg, or however you say it, the one that knows all the answers. They've been offered $1 billion to change their name now.
What?
Yes, by Elon Musk.
Another X.
Yeah, I heard that yesterday, Spangle. Does anybody have anything that they really want to address this with, Shawn?
I embrace technology to the hilt. It's a great marketing. I totally use it for marketing every which way. Social media, different platforms of social media. When I'm not in costume, I go into a grocery store now and I have people yelling out Mrs. Claus. And I don't even know that they're watching this stuff, but obviously they're seeing the marketing. So that it's a great tool. The other thing is TikTok has given me over, I don't even know, 1,500 people at least, followers right now at this point. I'm able to go live with a whole nother group of people and children that I can read books to from all over the world on that, just by going live. So that, and the other thing about technology and TikTok, or you could go on live on Facebook also, but it's a good tool for practicing before you go to live events, because I get on there and read books and I'm live and I never know what the responses are going to be or who's going to be on there, just like an event would be that you have hundreds of people. So it's a good way to just get your head in the game before I go to an event. I usually go live on TikTok. So I embrace technology in that way. It's very helpful.
And you guys know that I'm a baby, so technology is like in my blood, but my kid still makes me feel like an idiot whenever it comes to certain things. I have a teenager at home, so although I just did find out yesterday that boomer is now no longer used as a word, so don't use the word boomer anymore.
All right, so I know it's getting late. We've had a couple that ask about having to leave early about the trivia answers and questions. I can contact whoever the winner is if you're not on the show, the rest of the show tonight, and let you know if you have one. Now, what we're going to do here, because we're after 10 o'clock on the East Coast, 9 o'clock here in Central Time, so it is getting late. Some of these questions that I've got down here, we've already kind of addressed. So, Spangle, go down through there and find one that we haven't, and go ahead and ask it.
All right, Mrs. Claus, what is the hardest part of being Mrs. Claus? Let's go
What's
to
up with Santa.
It would be Santa. Santa. Santa's the hardest part of being Mrs. Claus.
Yeah. Let's ask Shawn that. And Shawn, when you give us your answer, could you also tell us your website? We've had a viewer ask that.
Okay. The hardest part about being Mrs. Claus, I don't think it's that hard. I don't know. The hardest part is getting to the events by myself sometimes. When I have to drive over an hour in a snowstorm and in costume and stop at a party store, and that's just really, really hard. And usually I figure out my route so that I have rest areas if needed and safe places. But I work with different Santa Clauses. And at this point, I make sure that they're good guys too. So they kind of look out for me and help me out a little bit too. I don't know. I'm not a chicken, but it's just nice, a little nerving. So Other than that, it's not really hard. I'm pretty good at marketing and all this stuff. I miss having somebody sometimes with me all the time, but then I kind of like doing my own thing too. So,
Kathy, do you have anything to add to that?
I worked with my husband for many years before he passed away. So being Mrs. Claus with him wasn't hard at all. What I'm finding it hard to deal with now is being on my own and trying to do things by myself or with other Santas like Rex and another gentleman I work with. But it's breaking through the stereotype that Mrs. Claus does nothing but sit in the kitchen and bake cookies. So trying to get out the fact that she does more than that to the children as well as to the Santas is probably what I would call the hardest of what is a really fun and easy thing to do.
Liz?
Yeah, I would say exactly. Kathy's right. And also, I don't know what the deal is in our area, but there's a lot of Santas in Branson. There's very few Mrs. Clauses. And when you mention Mrs. Claus, they're like, what do we do with her? So I guess that would be the biggest thing as far as being a Claus portrayal actress is that, trying to find places that will accept you. Even if you're as a pair, it seems to be different.
I want to add something. This year, I've actually had to hire Santas to work with me. So I'm just throwing that out in the universe. Yeah, it's been pretty darn nice. Yep. And luckily, I got some really good guys I can call up, and I'm really good at negotiating contracts and making deals. And real quick, I'm on an advisory committee for an airport, and we have an aviation day. It's nonprofit and all this stuff. But I want to have some people there for the children. So I'm currently negotiating my time for them to give me their time for the aviation day in June. So we're going to be meeting soon, but I think it'll work out. So I'm at you can do it, girls. You just got to get out there and make a deal. Go to the bakeries, go to the chocolate places, libraries. There's all kinds to get your foot out there. And then they'll be calling you word of mouth.
Hey, I like what the Mrs. Clauses are cooking here. So let's just stay with the Mrs. Clauses for a moment. And this is a very important question. This is one that is important. I think great answers here. Tell us how you would handle a shy, scared child who is terrified of Santa. What about a special needs child? And how do you go about evaluating their needs and then calculate your approach to set their fears at ease? Kathy?
Well, I have had the experience of having to deal with a lot of shy children. And sometimes I've had kids come up and say, I'm so glad you're here, Mrs. Claus. I really wanted to meet you. And they wanted to see me more than Santa. But I kind of get down on their level and talk softly and gently. Sometimes the special needs children it's very obvious what the problem is. And just do some research on it so you can help identify what you need to do with each of these different types of children. And then if they're still terrified of Santa, there's ways that you can still, if they want to, the parents want them to be with Santa, there's ways that you can get Santa out of the picture and let the child examine the chair or the toy bag or whatever, and then have Santa come in behind them so they don't even realize he's there. And then they can still get the picture that the family wants without terrorizing the child.
Well, look at you and look at the guy next to you. I can totally see why they want to talk to Mrs. Claus.
Thanks, Spangle.
There's 2 marks on the naughty list.
Yeah, really. Spangle's adding them up fast tonight, isn't he? Okay, Liz, you got an answer for that one?
Well, since I'm a sales and marketing person for like a million years, I pretty much can point out something interesting on the child that I can talk with, whether it's their shirt, their shoes, they're holding a toy. You start a conversation with that, and they get comfortable because they start talking about it. Another really cool trick is to have props, maybe a bag full of candy. Oops, you dropped the candy. For some reason, kids love to help you pick up the candy. And so now they're interacting and they're doing something with you. Pick up the candy. My new thing is shoes and purses. I don't know if anybody's seen me yet, but I'm all about the cool shoes and purses. I have snow globes in my shoes. The young ladies, that's the first thing they'll see. Oh my gosh, look at that purse. Look at those shoes. And they want to come touch it. I'll hand them my purse and they'll carry my purse. They don't even notice they're walking towards Santa Claus because they're carrying a purse. So, and getting down on their level, I will sit on the floor, I'll kneel on the floor, I'll lay on the floor. If there's a child on the spectrum who's doing that, I'll just mirror what they're doing and smile and be quiet and, just you just kind of have to look at their reaction. You can tell what kind of, I had a very shy son who would, pretty much be glued to my leg. If we were anywhere near strangers, you can tell as soon as you see that child, okay, that's going to be the one that you can't ask questions. They don't like questions. That's fearful to answer. So you just make comments. Oh, wow, look at your shoes. Oh, look at that shirt. Unicorns are my favorite. Look at my unicorn, things like that. You want to get them feeling comfortable about that they're special. And then you can go from there. Slowly get them over towards the big man.
Shawn, what's your trick?
What I would do is when I see that this is happening, I would stay in character, of course, look at Santa and have him acknowledge me taking over, like so that the child would see me talking to Santa in a loving look. He's my husband. He's going to let me do this. And then, but I would physically go toward him and then move toward the child and get down to their level and talk to them and be kind of in between the child and Santa and see if they start relaxing and maybe scooch away, and whatever was needed, I would go on the cues of the child. But then I would also be having Santa still in the picture and talking back and forth with him. I've done Joe Edie. This is something that we've had to deal with quite often when we go to Grand Rapids. But we just know each other well enough that I just kind of take the child and settle the child down enough so that we can get some pictures. And sometimes the child will be on my lap and he'll just kind of snuggle over to me and then we'll take the picture and it works fine. So the child doesn't have to get near him, but that's what I do.
Bob, can I add something to this real quick?
Sure can.
The thing I have noticed over the years of talking to Santas, talking to Mrs. Clauses, my Mrs. Claus, is the thing most of us lack here is education. The most important thing is to be able to recognize that reluctant child, to understand what their reluctance is, be it are they on the spectrum, are they just shy? Do they have a physical handicap, a mental, handicap? But learning to recognize this and how to handle them. When we talk about autism, autism's not a single thing. That's why it's called a spectrum now, right? And truth is, there is no such thing as being slightly autistic or very autistic. Either a child is on the spectrum or they're not. And we need to educate ourselves through research, through going to classes, whatever, talking with people that specialize in these fields to learn to recognize and how to deal with these children. It's really not all that hard.
I have people come up to my balloon line and stuff when I'm twisting balloons, and they'll tell me, sorry, but Bobby's got ADHD. I'm like, big deal. He's got 4 letters. I got the whole alphabet. This usually puts them at ease, Larry, you got anything, or Bruce?
No.
Nothing more than, Santa invented the photobomb, and he's got it mastered. So that's the main way to work with those type of things. You make sure you get the picture first, and then worry about trying to get the visit second.
No, I just just to add on with what Rex is saying, and also what's been expressed, is that we need to learn more about this. Neurodivergency is all around us, and the better we are at it at Christmas time makes us better people all year round.
Very well said.
Bob, I got a question for you.
Okay.
I'm dying to know. Do we have any winners tonight?
We do, and I was just fixing to say this has been a long show, a very important show, and we do have other questions that we could ask. We wanted to make sure in case we needed them, we had them. But I think at this time we're starting to lose some folks. Like I said, it is getting late, so let's go ahead and move along. And do we have winners for all three?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. We do. Reveal tonight's trivia answer. SchoolofSantas.com. The House Without a Christmas Tree originally aired on CBS. That was December 3rd, 1972. The last rerun of it was December 25th, 1987, and that was originally filmed in Exbridge, Ontario. Winner?
Ray Bradshaw.
Ray Bradshaw got that one. Okay, Ray, your name goes in the hat for the School of Santa's drawing, which will be held next year, about 6 weeks before the July event. TNL Productions for the name in the hat. Name the musical drama film about the female Tejano music star. That's going to be Selena. Our two main actors was Jennifer Lopez and John Cena. The release date was March 21st, 1997, and Selena was shot on March 31st, 1995. Winner?
Nick Casey.
Nick Casey won that one. We'll have to get back with him. Nick had to leave. He had to get up at 4 a.m. Eastern time, so he just left a few moments ago. StuffForSanta.com in the 1980s popular TV series was credited for The Ugly Sweater. That's Bill Cosby or The Cosby Show. The film that later made it into a Christmas holiday tradition was National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. We're all familiar with that one. The designated National Ugly Sweater Day is the third Friday in December each year. And the first ugly holiday sweater party again goes to Canada, Vancouver this time. Winner?
Rick Maynard.
Rick Maynard got that one. Fantastic, Rick. So that one is the stickers that Spangle has. We'll get those out to you. And let's see here. We do have one last question before we run off, though, guys. And this is a good one, too. What is your message to any child out there who no longer believes in you? And what would you tell them about how the merits work as far as staying on the nice list?
Socks and underwear.
Socks and underwear. Larry?
Let me see if okay. Pretty much like you said, I just said, you don't have to believe in me. I mean, you'll get what you get then, and you don't get to choose. Well, I get to choose what you
get. You'll get what you get.
I always tell them, just because you don't believe in me, Santa believes in you.
I like that too.
Yep. Anybody else got anything to add?
Well, I want to add just something real quick. I'm in my season already. Most of us are doing some things already. I've been doing photo sessions for the whole month, half of September and all of October. And this past week, or week before last, actually, I had a family come to visit, and it was two boys, and one was 19 and one was 22. And I do what's called a Santa experience. They get 20 minutes to interact with Santa Claus while the photographer takes candid shots. And I had to change my whole routine when I found out I was going to have two adults. Okay. And what we talked about in this was, okay, I know you always wanted the answer to this question, is Santa real? And yes, Santa is real, but he's not one person. And I spent the whole 20 minutes talking about how Yeah, mom and dad are the ones that put the things in your stocking and wrap the presents under the tree and told you they were from Santa. And that didn't really make them Santa. It's how we all share that love of Christmas. And that's how we went through that whole session. I found it very moving, even for me. And I got Spangle crying. I just saw him wipe his eyes.
Shawn, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I had I think a 13-year-old boy, and he had younger siblings come up to me and with his mom, and he said, "Is Santa real? Are you real?" And I said, "Well, I am a character of Mrs. Claus." And I said, "Do you believe in Christmas?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, your mom believes in Christmas." And I said, sometimes when we get to a certain age, we just start to have to feel the Christmas spirit rather than talk about Santa Claus. But the big key to this all is, to this story that I'm telling you, is that you need to not lose your Christmas spirit, because someday, hopefully, you'll have a little boy or a little girl and you still want to have your Christmas spirit in you. So you need to realize that and keep that in you. Even if you wonder and you don't think it's real, you know the Christmas spirit's real. And he totally was buying it all. And then he looked at his mom, and she was actually had tears in her eyes, and she's like, "That's just what I told him." So I did it right. I was so proud of myself. It was a little smoother when I did it with him. But that's what I tell them, that as long as they can keep the Christmas spirit, that's what matters, no matter what. And there's children and their future children and generations. That's how they can pass it on. That's what's important. So there you go.
Fantastic. That's why I love these roundtables. Spangle, let's go ahead and close out the show. You ready?
I'm ready. All right. So join us next week for our third annual Monday special Halloween costume show, 7 p.m., guys. And get a hold of Bob. Send them messages to Bob. I got one sent to me. I got to get it to you. Let's blow this thing up. We need several more. 2024 season opener for Monday show with Bob and Randall, Monday, February 19th at 3 p.m. Set your calendars. You all got it on your phone.
That's right. And the opening night for the Tuesday Night Live show will be the following night, Tuesday, February 20th, just to make note of that. All right. So North Pole Cornerstones invites you to join us in San Antonio, Texas, February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, npcornerstones.com. You can also register for classes, make your hotel reservations, and our exclusive discount for $149, breakfast included, which is a $20 value. North Pole Cornerstones, we are offering a scholarship to one individual attendee for the North Pole Cornerstones inaugural session, February 2nd to the 4th in San Antonio. The scholarship covers the cost of tuition, $450 value. Application timeline, October 1st, 2023 through November 30th, 2023. And we will select the recipient before year's end. That is a blind by committee. No markings on the registrations that will be in there. Click registrations and then hit the scholarship tab, then click apply for scholarship. Get over and do it. What have you got to lose but a few moments of time? All right, Spangle, you got any closing thoughts, man?
My notepad's full. I hope yours are too.
Yes, absolutely. Guys, just love these shows. And before we, let all of you go, you can stay in the green room if you want to afterwards. We can chat a little bit longer. But thank you all so very much. Gosh, what a great panel. I mean, the answers were on spot, different points of views, and everyone should have learned something tonight. If they didn't, they were brain dead.
Every show every show we do, I keep a notepad and a pen right here, and I'm always writing stuff down.
Oh yeah, I learn. Every week I learn so much. It's amazing, and I'll tell you, the hardest part about learning all this stuff is which darn answer do you choose to give at any given moment. I mean, there's so many things that you can reach in and grab from these sessions.
Remember, don't use my answer earlier.
Which one? The naughty ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that's right. All right. Also, remember, TNL merchandise is over at fancylees.com. Jump over there, help support the channel and the shows. Big thank you to schoolofsantas.com, stufforsantas.com, holidayphotomagic.com, thermapparel.com. Speaking of, Julia is coming back for the November 7th show, and she will be giving away a thermapparel cooling vest. So you want to check that out. Fancylees.com, Norfolk Cornerstones at mpcornerstones.com. Huh? Well, I thought you said something. All right. Go catch show or three over on our YouTube channel, the Tuesday Night Live Show, or watch a few of the old Bob and Randall reruns because, like I said, the season was over yesterday. As yet another show comes to an end, we want to wish each of you happy closing. Tell everyone good night, Spangle.
Good night, Spangle.
Good night.
All right, good night. Remember to join us for our next Tuesday Night Live show, the Halloween special next week, 7 p.m., same claws time, same claws channel. Count your blessings, not your sorrows. May your troubles be small and your blessings be large. Have a blessed week. Until next time, on behalf of our featured expert panel, Shawn, Kathy, Liz, Larry, Dr. Bruce, and Rex. Did I get everybody there?
Yeah.
I think I did. All right, our whole TNO production crew, Spangle, Jessica, Rex, Melissa Lynn, Randall, Angela, Scott, and myself. I'm Santa Bob McMaster saying good night. Remember, always let your claws, hearts shine bright, never stop learning, and hope to see everyone back the beginning of next year for the Monday show and right back here next Tuesday night. Good night, all. Thanks, everyone.